So welcome, welcome. I am super excited today to welcome you to our training on how to tell stories that sell, right? This is going to be a really, really good thing that we're going to dig into. So if you are just joining us, let me just make sure that everybody knows this because I don't want it to be weird. I am broadcasting this live in 3 different places, looking at multiple cameras. So if you see my eyes shifting all over America, that's why. Okay, so just bear with me here. So as always, if you have questions, I welcome you to ask them. Please drop them in the chat for us. And I have my trusty team, Amanda and Samantha, behind the scenes, monitoring comments, and they will bring them to my attention toward the end of this training today, so that if you guys have questions, comments, whatever, I can help you on the spot, give you some free marketing consulting. That's what this is all about. So if you don't know me, my name is Stephanie Novinskas. I run a company called Sizzle Force Marketing. And this is week 3 of a new series we're doing called So That's How You Do It, where we're going to really dig into how you do all the marketing things that you always hear you need to be doing. Okay, so how to tell stories that sell. You guys, here's the bottom line. Facts tell, stories sell. Did you get that? I want you to really think about it for a minute, okay? Because you may have heard it before, but maybe it didn't resonate super deeply with you. Facts tell, stories sell. It is so important for you guys to know this, to understand this, and to embrace this, because if you are not telling stories as part of your sales process, you are leaving buckets of money on the table, buckets. And nobody wants to do that, right? So let's talk a little bit about why storytelling is so important in general, but also when you're trying to sell your products and services. First of all, storytelling is the oldest form of communication, right? We all know that. I mean, it goes all the way back to when they were writing stories on cave walls. And there's a reason why storytelling has stuck around for all this time. And it's because it is the most effective way to get a point across. When we hear a story, we actually place ourselves in our minds into the story. This is why when you're watching a good movie, or you're watching a live production on stage somewhere, or even you're listening to a sappy country song, right? When you hear a story, you place yourself in it and you start to feel the things that the characters in the story are feeling. Okay, so that explains it. Next time someone's like, why are you crying at the movie? Or why are you getting so angry about what's happening to that character, or fired up, or whatever it is? That's a totally normal response to storytelling. It's how our brains are wired, right? Stories also activate more areas of the brain than any other form of communication. Did you know that? It's really, really interesting. If you like to nerd out on neuroscience at all, like I do, you'll see that there's, I believe it's 9 areas of the brain that are illuminated when someone is listening to a story versus 1 or 2, which is the norm using other communication forms. So storytelling is just so important. Also, here's a fun factoid. Stories are 22 times more likely to be remembered than you sharing facts about something, okay? It's crazy, crazy stuff. 22 times more likely to be remembered. There have been study after study after study on this, and it's just, if you want people to remember what you do, why you sell it, why, all the things about what you're offering to the world, you need to be telling stories, especially the kind that grab at the emotions, right? We've talked about this before, but I'll just put it back in front of you again. 90% of purchases are based on emotions. If you are not tying emotions into the stories that you tell, once again, you're leaving money on the table, right? Because if 90% of purchases are based on emotions and only 10% are based on logic, you gotta tell the stories that pull at the heartstrings. Okay, so if you are just joining us, real quick, I just want to let you guys know I am broadcasting this on multiple platforms, which requires multiple cameras, which explains why my eyes are darting all over the place today. And that's just gonna have to be the way it is. So sorry if that's weird. I'm trying to give each of you guys your own bit of attention so nobody feels left out, but doing the best we can here. So if you guys have questions or comments about storytelling, please go ahead and drop them in the chat. I am going to bring up Amanda, who is my trusty sidekick here, toward the end of this lesson today, and she's going to relay your questions and comments to me because I can't manage the chat and all these different platforms at the same time while teaching. So we'll get to them, but we're going to get to them toward the end. Okay, so now that you know why to tell stories, I want to talk to you about some examples of when to tell stories. Okay, so number one, when you want to set your products and services apart in a loud, noisy, extremely competitive market, you want to be telling stories. Okay, so let me give you an example. And this one I'm actually just going to read to you. So my eyes are going to be down looking at my notes for a minute here. But I want you guys, if you're in an environment, not if you're driving, of course, but if you're in an environment where you can just close your eyes for a moment and listen to this, I'd like you to do that. And if you're behind the wheel, please don't do that. Okay, so here is a story that one company is famous for telling, and it really set them apart in a very crowded marketplace. Here's how the story goes. Warby Parker was founded with a rebellious spirit and a lofty objective to offer designer eyewear at a revolutionary price, while leading the way for socially conscious businesses. Every idea starts with a problem. Ours was simple. Glasses are too expensive. We were students when one of us lost his glasses on a backpacking trip, and the cost of replacing them was so high that he spent the first semester of grad school without them, squinting and complaining, right? We don't recommend this. The rest of us had similar experiences, and we were amazed at how hard it was to find a great pair of frames that didn't leave our wallets bare. Where were the options? Well, it turns out there was a simple explanation. The eyewear industry is dominated by one single company that has been able to keep prices artificially high while reaping huge profits from consumers who have no other options. We started Warby Parker to create an alternative. By circumventing traditional channels, designing glasses in-house, and engaging with customers directly, we're able to provide higher quality, better looking prescription eyewear at a fraction of the going price. We believe that buying glasses should be easy and fun. It should leave you happy and good looking with money in your pocket. We also believe everyone has the right to see. Almost 1 billion people worldwide lack access to glasses, which means that 15% of the world's population cannot effectively learn or work. To help address this problem, Warby Parker partners with nonprofits like Vision Spring to ensure that for every pair of glasses sold, a pair is distributed to someone in need. There's nothing complicated about it. Good eyewear, good outcome. Okay, that's a good story, you guys. That is a good story. If you guys want to look that up again, you can look it up. It's on the Warby Parker site, WARBYPARKER. So they sell eyeglasses, as you might have guessed. So why is that story so effective? And what can you learn from it when telling your own stories? First of all, this story really sets them apart. It kind of It shows the problem, okay? It definitely shows the problem that there's one company dominating the eyewear industry and keeping prices artificially high, right? Which makes everybody go, oh, no, that's so wrong, right? It's not supposed to be that way. Yeah, you're right. It's not supposed to be that way, right? So here was the student that was on a backpacking trip and he broke his glasses, or he lost his glasses. I can't remember. I think he lost them. And then he couldn't afford to get new glasses. So he was squinting and complaining the whole time, right? Doesn't it bring you into the story when you hear this? Can you picture a friend doing this? Can you picture yourself doing this? That's what most stories enable us to do. We start to feel like it's happening to us, even though it's don't. Then they talk about the solution that they created to this problem. And then they talk about how they were able to circumvent the system and design glasses in-house and engage with customers directly so they could produce these higher level glasses and better looking prescription eyewear in a way that's easy and fun, right? Then they wrap up the story by telling you about how they are a socially conscious business and how they're giving back, okay? This story sets them apart. This story reveals a little bit of their heart and their humanness by talking about a very normal story about being on a trip and losing your glasses and the negative implications of that. And it is a great example of how one company used storytelling to set their product or services apart. All right, now let's look at another time when you will want to share stories. When you want to make a purchase purposeful, you will want to tell stories. Now, Warby Parker touched on this with their whole thing about, giving a pair of glasses to someone in need. Every time you buy a pair of glasses, there's a lot of other companies that do something similar. I think most of you have probably heard of Tom's Shoes, who kind of started this trend of buy a pair of shoes is given to somebody in need, right? And it's a very compelling story, and it makes people feel good about what they're putting money down for, because it's not only something that's going to benefit them, right? They're going to get a new pair of cute shoes or a new pair of eyeglasses, but they're also going to help somebody else get them, right? Without spending any additional money, or so it seems, right? Because of the way that it's priced. We have one of our clients who sells a product called Blingsy. And Pamela, I don't know if you're watching this, but I'm going to surprise you and talk about you. So it is actually a jewelry roll where you put your jewelry in it and then you roll it up when you're traveling. And it makes it so your jewelry does not get tangled, right? With anyone who has ever tried to travel with necklaces and things that hang, right? Jewelry, things that hang, it can be a real problem, and it's such a pain in the rear, especially if you're like traveling for business and you're trying to get out the door quickly to go speak on a stage or something, and your necklaces are all tied up, right? It's a pain in the rear. Well, Pamela created a solution to this with her product Blingsy, and she added the purpose. Beyond just meeting your need of keeping your jewelry tangle free, she added the purpose of buying this because she has victims of human trafficking actually sewing the jewelry rolls, right? So you are providing hope, healing, and opportunity for people to start off their life in a new and better way. And it's very compelling, right? To know that when you're buying this jewelry roll, yes, you're getting the solution you need, but you know what? It's actually really helping somebody who has been through some major trauma get a little bit of a new start, right? Learn some skills that they can get paid for and start their lives, push the reset button on it, right? So I love how she does that. So you'll definitely want to think about how to do that for your brand. Like, what can you do? How can you tie in what you're doing to a purpose bigger than just selling your stuff, right? But that's a great time to tell a story. And there's so many different ways you can tell those stories. So another time that's great to tell a story is when you're trying to really humanize yourself and build trust and credibility with your audience. Okay. Mostly so this is useful when you're in a situation where people feel like you kind of have the Midas touch and they can't relate to you because you're the speaker on stage who has it all figured out and you have all the answers and they don't, right? So my business coach is a woman named Allison Maslin. Okay. And Allison, has run 10 different companies, made bajillions of dollars doing it. She is absolutely at the top of her game. But whenever she gets on stage, she always tells the story of when she realized she needed to make a big change in how she was running her business. And she talks about how she literally ran herself over, right? Because her brain was just on such a high level of overwhelm, right? And I won't steal her thunder. You'll have to look her up or attend one of her events to get all the details there. But it's a true story of an absolute tragedy that happened because she allowed herself to operate in this unhealthy way in her business, and it caught up with her, right? It caught up with her, and it could have killed her, right? But it didn't. And now she talks about how, look, and that's when I knew I had to make a change. And so that's when I started doing this, and it changed how I do business, and I grew, and now I want to teach you those stories, and there you go. So when she tells that story, it really humanizes her. She no longer becomes this kind of untouchable, like one of these experts who just knows everything and somehow magically, just knows how to push all the right numbers and guess all the right buttons and all of the things that get success quickly. She says, no, I'm just like you guys, right? So that's another time to tell a great story. Another time to tell a great story and ramp up your sales is when you have someone who really can't get off the fence, right? They're thinking about buying what you sell, but for whatever reason, they're just not jumping off that fence, right? They've got some hesitations that are holding them back. There's a gentleman by the name of Stu McLaren who is the master at getting people off of the fence with storytelling. And here's how he does it, right? He will say something like, if I were saying, well, I don't know if I want to buy this because I have these financial obligations and I don't know if I can afford it, or whatever it might be, whatever my objection could be, right? Stu typically will reply with something along the lines of the following. You remind me of Susan. Susan, when she first started working with us, was having this financial problem, right? She had just gotten laid off. She wasn't married. Her savings account was dwindling quickly, and she knew she needed a new solution. She knew she needed a new way to make money. Well, we actually trained her in XYZ formula, and she was able to launch her business. And now she has, a company that's making a healthy 6 figures every year, and she never had to return to the workplace, so she's able to spend more time with her kids. Okay, I totally made that story up. So if anyone is watching this named Susan who has worked with Stu, that is not a reality story. I just made that up, and I just want to make that clear to you guys. But do you see how when you tell a story to somebody who's on the fence about whether or not they're going to buy what you sell, and you say, oh, you remind me of so-and-so, and they had this problem too, but they jumped off the fence and had this amazing result and lived happily ever after, then it makes people go, oh, okay, so I'm not the first person to work with you in this situation. Or I'm not the only person that's struggling in this way. There's, I have good company, right? All of those things. Okay. So those are 4 different examples of when you can use stories when you're selling. And let me just review those for you guys again. And if you're jumping in and you're jumping in a bit late and you didn't hear my announcement, the reason my eyes are darting all over the place is because we're broadcasting on multiple platforms today. So I have to look at a whole bunch of different cameras. So I'm doing my best, but please don't judge. So, and also, if you're just joining us and you have questions or comments, please do pop in the chat and start sharing your thoughts. I have Amanda and Samantha, my trusty team members, working in the background, tracking everything. And Amanda's going to jump on in a little bit here, and we're going to talk through your comments and questions. Okay, so when to tell stories. Number one, when you want to set your product and services apart. Okay, great time to tell a story that's going to help you sell. Number two, when you want to make purchasing with you purposeful. Okay, that was the example I shared with Pamela and Blingsy and Tom's Shoes, and we talked about how Warby Parker did it. Okay, number three, when you're trying to humanize yourself and build trust and credibility with an audience who doesn't know you and just really is like, I don't know, is she the real deal? I don't know. Number four, when your prospects have all the information, but they're on the fence for some reason, right? They're just stuck on the fence and they're still hesitating. And you're trying to persuade them to jump off of the fence and realize, no, you really do have a solution that can really help them. Okay, so for examples, you guys, there's a gazillion examples. I mean, we could be live streaming on this for days and I wouldn't be done because there are so many opportunities to tell stories and use storytelling as one of your like top sales conversion tools. But I don't want to overwhelm you. So I wanted to give you guys 4 to start with. And I want to encourage you to start thinking about how you can use those 4 different types of stories. Okay. So now you're like, okay, wow, I know when to tell stories, but where do I tell these stories? You're going to tell these stories everywhere, you guys. You're going to tell them in your blog posts. You're going to tell them in your social media posts, whether you're going live or you're doing reels or you're just posting on a grid or, you know, whatever you do on whatever platform you're on. You're going to tell stories in the emails that you send. You're going to tell stories in the podcasts that you record for your own podcast, as well as podcasts that you are a guest on, as well as stages, right? Whether they're virtual or live, whatever, great opportunity to tell stories that reel people in. You're going to tell stories when you're meeting with prospects face to face or when you're in Zoom calls with a prospect, right? You're going to tell stories everywhere because if we circle back to the beginning of all of this, I would like to remind you facts tell, stories sell. Okay, so you guys, if we've got some questions, I'm going to have Amanda jump in and join us, whether we have some questions or some comments about storytelling. You might call it story selling. Isn't that cute? Amanda's going to share some of the feedback that we got when I could not monitor the chat. Keep dumping in your questions, comments, and let's have a dialogue about this for just a little bit.
Yeah.
Hi, Amanda.
Hi. So just so you know, you froze for a second there at the end and came back just in time for facts tell, stories sell. So if there was anything really important that you said right before that, you should repeat it.
Oh boy. Well, did you hear me tell you where to tell stories?
Yes. We got the where to tell stories for sure. So I think we might be.
Well, I hope you guys know what I don't know what I said.
Okay.
Apparently I froze on Facebook and YouTube, but possibly not on Instagram. So you'll be able to catch this on IG.
Instagram seems to be fine because that's a different feed. So that one seemed to be okay from what I can see. But yeah, so if we froze for a second there, sorry guys, but I don't think you missed anything super important while we were frozen. So okay. So first, Holly Ryerson Hansen, this is not a question. This is just
Holly.
I want to read to you. Okay. She said, I totally agree. As a realtor, when I post great backstories about the miracles involved in each buying or selling transaction, I almost always get a new client who calls asking me to help them too.
Mm-hmm.
So I just wanted to read that one to you. And then another comment, not question, from Rebecca Garcia. She said, we were just talking about this in this morning's CWIN meeting. I'll have to share this with them. And she shared it in the CWIN group, and it looked like a few CWIN ladies jumped on. So
oh, sweet. Hi, welcome.
Okay.
Thanks, Rebecca.
So questions. Christine DeLulo asked, what type of stories work for a product-based business? And Steph, I know you know this, but just for everyone else, Christine owns a bridal salon.
Okay, stories that work for a product type business. Well, let's talk about, Christine, let's talk about what you actually do, since I know you have a retail bridal store. You could tell so many stories. I mean, you could tell stories about the bride that came in with the mom who didn't like anything, who was critical about everything and made her not feel good in the dress she was in, right? And how you overcame that and accommodated the mom's needs and the bride's needs. You could tell the story about the women that came in and they were trying to get the bridesmaid dresses and how nobody could agree on one particular style because everyone had a different body type. And everyone looked good in different colors and how you accommodated that. You could tell the stories about the bride who wanted to honor her heritage, right? But also wanted to be a modern bride, right? And wanted to merge the two together. I mean, so many stories when it comes to brides, right? You could tell the story about the woman who came in who wasn't a dress wearer, right? She just didn't wear dresses. It wasn't part of her everyday attire. And so wearing a bridal gown was extremely intimidating to her. And, you know, she was just more of a shorts and pants kind of girl. And then she came in and she tried it and she told you about how she was anxious and you were able to outfit her in a beautiful dress or maybe in a dress that actually was a jumpsuit that, you know, fit with the modern day times. So many opportunities in the bridal industry specifically. Amanda, do you have anything to add there? Any ideas for Christine?
I mean, I think that it's really, Christine is going to be about kind of what Stephanie said, like you need to show the struggle and then show, I mean, it's your basic storyline, right? Like somebody has a problem and then you come swooping in as the hero to provide the solution. That's the goal of the storytelling in your case, I think.
Yep. All right, hope that helped, Christine. Anything else?
Okay. Question, this is a question from Rebecca.
Okay.
What is a good way to ask people to share their stories?
Well, you can certainly ask a happy customer after they've purchased something and you're having that conversation where they're telling you, oh my gosh, your product or service helped me so much. That's a time when I love to capture a good story. And oftentimes I will pull out my camera and say, do you mind if I record this? And usually the response will be like, oh my gosh, no, you can't record it right now. Let me get all ready. And I'll say, no, you look fine. Come on, please, let me record this. Can I use this as a testimonial? And I'll talk them into it and then they'll do it and they do look fine. And that is a great time to capture a story about someone's experience because they're already coming to you, telling you about how they're happy with the solution, right? I think just by getting to know your prospects, right? I mean, the best kind of sales are done by really solving problems. And you solve problems by knowing what the problems are. And you know what the problems are because you ask people, right? That's where the stories come out, right? So it's like, oh, so, why are you in here today? What are you looking for? What are you planning to use this for? And oh, wow, oh, so you're looking for new binoculars because you're a bird watcher, really? Oh, have you watched birds anywhere interesting? Oh yeah, I went to the Amazon, blah blah blah. Okay, that can become a story, right? Is that making sense?
Yeah. Okay. So follow up from Rebecca. She said, should we guide people in what or how to best share their story? And then what would be a good storytelling format to make the biggest impact? So you might have already covered
Okay,
some of
repeat
that.
that question for me one at a time, if you don't mind.
First one is, should we guide people in what or how to best share their story?
Yes. Okay. So, quick and easy formula is to just say, all I want you to do is tell me what was happening before you had the product or service that we sell and how that was impacting your life, preferably in a negative way, which is going to reveal the problem. And then I want you to say, and then I got X and, X solution. And because of that, now I can A, B, and C. And that's it. And I like to, whenever I ask someone to tell their story, I tell them, I'm like, we're going to keep this super low key and mellow because I don't want you to get stressed out. And I only want you to talk for like 20 seconds. Right. And that puts people at a lot of ease. They're like, oh gosh, I don't have to rehearse a speech. What was the second
And
part
then
of
the
the question?
second part was, what would be a good storytelling format to make the biggest impact?
A good storytelling format to make the biggest impact. I think any of the examples that I gave would work for that. I mean, there's so many, but you make impacts in different ways, right? So I gave the example of making an impact by humanizing yourself, and making yourself seem more like one of your potential customers as opposed to the person who's always had everything figured out. I think you're going to make a huge impact when you reveal a problem in an industry and you say, wow, there was a problem with buying glasses. You couldn't get any that looked good, from that weren't artificially inflated. That was the word I'm looking for, artificially inflated with the pricing. Or, the example of the high impact story that Stu does, where somebody's on the fence and you help them get off the fence and they had this wonderful story as a result, and you recount what happened with them. Okay, now I know some people will say, oh, well, you can just make those up. No, please don't do that, right? Don't lose the authenticity. Tell true stories, okay? Tell true stories. People can sniff a fake from a mile away. Don't be one of those people. You can get great stories just by talking to people in real life. What else do we have?
Okay, another follow-up. This one is from Christine. So you answered her question about what types of stories work best for products. She said, wow, we've had all of these situations and more. How do you feel about going live with this as a Q&A and answering one question per live?
I love that idea. I think that's brilliant. I think people are busy, and I think people love short and sweet. I'm terrible at short and sweet. I'll just tell you that because I like to talk too much. In fact, we need to wrap up this live. Otherwise, nobody's ever going to watch the recording of it.
I don't see any other questions. If you guys have last minute questions, go ahead and drop them in the chat. Steph, do you want to tell them where they can get the template for this?
Yeah, so we created a template for you guys to help you with writing one of these stories. That's what we do. For those of you that aren't aware, part of our company services, we provide done for you marketing services. So we're a marketing agency, but we also have this other division called Sizzle Force Marketing Academy, which is where we teach small business owners how to do their own marketing. And it is amazing. So in the academy, we're always giving templates and tools and trainings to our members. So we created a brand new one to help you guys craft a story, and you can get this template even though you're not an academy member yet. but you will be. You can get it now if you go to sizzleforce.com/storytelling. Okay. And I know that Amanda is going to get that URL in the bottom third on YouTube and Facebook. And I don't know if Samantha, if you can get it on Instagram.
It's not going to be on screen, but we will drop it in the comments, and we will also put it in the description of the video once we're done, once we close the live.
Okay, perfect. But just again, so you guys have it, it's Sizzle Force, SIZZLE Force, FORCE.com/storytelling. Go there and you will get the template that's going to walk you through how to tell one of these stories. And it's just a matter of writing it out and then practicing it, and have grace with yourselves as you guys start integrating this into what you're doing, because you'll get better over time. In the beginning, it might be a little bumpy. It might be a little awkward, right? Over time, it's going to get better and better, and it's just going to come naturally to you at some point, because all the stories you're going to tell are true. Okay? Did I make that clear? Don't make up stories. Everyone will know. All right. We are going to wrap this up, you guys, but I want to let you know next week we'll be back Wednesday at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern, with more marketing insights for you. Next week, we're talking about how to make your brand absolutely unforgettable. Who wants a little bit of that? And if y'all want to go listen to Absolutely Unforgettable by Nat King Cole now, because it's in your head, I highly recommend that you do so. I hope this was helpful, you guys. We'll see you again next week. Bye.